What are you doing?
I read this article that broadcasters who show some cleavage get more viewers.
Yeah, I think that's a sexist thing for women.
You're just jealous because it wouldn't work for you.
Welcome to the 13 Minutes Month in Review for February 2017. Unlike CNN and the New York Times, we have not been banned from White House press gatherings.
President Donald J. Trump dared to enforce existing American law by deporting illegal aliens. This policy makes Trump similar to former President Hussein Obama, who became known as the deporter-in-chief, as Obama deported more than 2.5 million people, more than any president in American history. However, President Trump, a personal plea, spare my Juans. My gardener, my repairman, my remodeler, my pool guy, all are Juans, and they're not easily replaced. And just 2 more words to remind the viewing public out there about the Trump administration. Ivanka Trump. Sisso?
Well, anytime you're talking about deportation, you have to consider the costs involved. And as it is right now, Trump's deportation plan is estimated to cost $500 billion to execute and will have a negative cost impact to the United States economy of $1.6 trillion over the next 20 years. And while we can understand that the goal of deportation is to encourage legal immigration by punishing illegal immigration, we have to remember that many of our own citizens do not understand the difference between legal and illegal immigration. Take green cards, for example. How many times have you heard an off-color comment about a green card holder? Do you even know what that means or what it means for the person carrying it? It's a permanent resident card that gives the person carrying it authorization to live and work in the United States on a permanent basis, which is, in fact, legal immigration. A green card, however, much to the chagrin of President Trump, does not allow for voting in national elections. It's actually fairly difficult to immigrate into the United States legally, which is why we have so much illegal immigration. And no, Mr. Spicer, illegal immigration is not increasing. It is, in fact, decreasing. Facts, White House. Facts. Here's the gig, though. What if we made legal immigration easier and less cost prohibitive? That way, we don't have the massive costs of deportation, which will have negative effects on the U.S. economy. Liam?
No es Telemundo. ¿Entiendes, Paco? In America's quest to remain number 1 in the world in education.
Liam, we're not number 1.
In our world domination of education, as we continue to rank in the top 5.
We're not in the top 5 either.
Sure as hell we're in the top 10.
No, Liam, we're not.
Jesus. No wonder there are so many imbeciles and papyruses out there. Every damn one of them has a driver's license. You too. At any rate, moving along, Betsy DeVos, who is unrelenting in protecting school children in Wyoming from grizzly bear attacks, was named Secretary of Education. However, Miss DeVos was prevented from visiting a public school in Washington, D.C. because of protesters. You know, the very people who know what is best for American public schools because they don't have jobs and can protest all day long. Nonetheless, with mismanaged resources, overpaid administrators who are borderline morons, and illiterate students, everything that we have done in the American public school system has been a smashing success so far, don't you think, Sisso?
Hey, I'm not going to say that the American public education system doesn't need some help. And, it's interesting even having the Department of Education, because it wasn't until the 1960s that the federal government began issuing educational policies, as the system was designed as a state's function protected under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. Typically, federal education policies impact just equal access to education and safeguards the constitutional rights of both students and teachers. And I'll admit, there's been a significant overreach from the federal level in schools recently. Common Core. But can we talk about the bathroom thing for just a minute? I'm really not certain that the Obama administration's protections for transgender students' bathroom use falls under the heading of overreach, not when we're talking about equal rights and protections. Recently, a transgender build was killed in Kentucky. Yes, Kentucky. Bluegrass carpeted, bourbon drinking, horse racing, Bible Belt, Kentucky. The reason? Well, to quote Republican Governor Matt Bevin, is it an issue? Is there anyone you know in Kentucky who has trouble going to the bathroom? Seriously? The last thing we need is more government rules. I'm cutting red tape, not creating it. Making government rules for things that don't even need government rules would be silly. And while I never in my life thought I'd say this, but Matt Bevin had a wonderful retort. We do not need laws to govern our bathrooms, and our people have the right to pee. Liam?
And yet another clear indication that American culture is going straight to hell. Hooters, the first real American restaurant to feature scantily clad waitress with impressive jumblies, will hire its first male waiters in one of its restaurants in Cicero, Illinois. My God, people, don't you realize this is a clear sign that our society is going to hell and that there is nothing left to believe in? It's a sign that our country is in serious trouble. Laugh if you must. Hooters is not only American culture at its finest, but it is art at its truest form. Sisso?
I really don't think they should take the boobs out of Hooters. I agree with you on that. So in the world of technology, teachers around the U.S. might be able to go back to the old school phrase. You're not going to carry a calculator around in your pocket now, are you? Well, no. The answer to that is I'm going to have a whole cotton-picking computer. But if the revamped Nokia 3310 takes off later this year, and I've never had one of those bad boys because that was way too big of an expense in my 20s, but I know a lot of people who did, and they were amazing little things. In the event of an atomic war, cockroaches and Nokias will survive, and the Nokia battery will not go dead.
Hear, hear.
We've all seen that meme, right? But seriously, for an older generation who wants little to do with texts, internet access, or access to a camera over 2 megapixels, the revamp is an act of genius.
I'm going to send you a dick pic later. Leftist administrators at UCLA have decided that they know better than you just how much you should know about free speech and expression. Department Chair and avowed leftist Carrie Johnson has placed an arbitrary limit on conservative professor Keith Fink's class. Free speech on campus. Just let that shit set in for a minute. Free speech on campus, Sisso. Johnson has done so in spite of the fact that Fink has taught his popular class in the past with more than twice that number of students. Please allow me to express myself, Dr. Carrie Johnson, when I say, va te faire enculer. Sisso?
Well, talking about free speech, we can't do that without talking about Lady Gaga in the Super Bowl. Holy cow! How about that halftime show for the Super Bowl? How much class does one lady have when she can follow God Bless America with a fairly well-known political protest anthem and be praised for saying nothing political? Okay, so maybe it's because many people in our country don't know who the heck Woody Guthrie is or what his music was about, and while that's something of a travesty, this land was made for you and me. Mad props for tailoring the first 3 tunes to meld into an amazingly inclusive act. Of course, now if you happen to ask the Atlanta Falcons, Lady Gaga's performance lost them the Super Bowl. Completely bogus, Falcons. But it did something much greater, which was probably the most profound Super Bowl halftime show I've ever seen. It managed to unite conservatives and liberals with cries of, "Lady Gaga is amazing! Great show!"
Apparently, Islamophobia is not just for Western infidels anymore. According to the Saudi Gazette, Saudi Arabia, a country well known for its tolerant attitudes, has deported more than 40,000 Muslim Pakistanis in the last 4 months because they feared that they had ties to ISIS. But surely this has never happened before, right? Oh, wrong. Between 2012 and 2015, Saudi Arabia, which is literally the Mecca of the Muslim world, deported almost 250,000 Pakistanis for the same reason. I just hope the Saudis are not sending these guys to pilot training. Sisso?
That'd probably be good. But in America, our government is telling us that states should be subject to greater enforcement of federal laws which prohibit marijuana use. Now in Britain, they're busy discovering that their highest achieving students are more likely to experiment with cannabis. Well, at least that's according to a study published by the British medical journal Open. Although some people believe smart students simply have a tendency to experiment, James William and Gareth Hager Johnson, which are the co-authors of the new study, said, these patterns may continue well into adulthood. During the late teens, pupils with the highest scores were more than twice as likely to drink alcohol regularly compared with others, yet they also showed themselves to have less of a tendency to binge drink. During the same time period in their lives, the academically gifted children proved nearly twice as likely to use cannabis persistently and 50% more likely to use it occasionally compared with other peers with the lower test scores. One potential explanation is that the higher ability adolescents are more open to try cannabis but are initially cautious of illegal substances in early adolescence as they are more aware of the immediate and long-term repercussions that breaking the law might occur. They say that cognitive ability is also associated with openness to new experience and higher levels of boredom due to the lack of mental stimulation in school. So Sean, maybe if you chewed less gum and smoked more pot, you'd be able to learn and use actual facts in your White House press conferences. Then again, it might be too late for you, so maybe we just start with limit that federal overreaching and allow states to do their thing.
I'm going to miss you when President Trump deports you. This story is for you men out there. There's now a safe way to ensure the safety of your male member and his 2 pals and enjoy technology at the same time. A company named Wireless Armor has developed a pair of men's underwear that will protect your genitals from the damage caused by the radiation emitted by laptops. So, whether you're watching Netflix or squeezing one off to the artistic offerings of Pornhub, you can now do so knowing that your manly region is fully protected. Sisso?
I have absolutely nothing to follow that up with. Men, go get some Wireless Armor and protect your junk.
Isn't your kitty worried about glow-in-the-dark penises? Or
Why would I
radiation?
ever have my laptop on my lap?
No, it's from the men that you might meet. Our junk might be radiating. Mine's glowing now.
Please don't show us.
That's after. And finally, in a world full of seriously fucking insane politics, there is a politician in Sweden who is actually offering hope and change we can really fucking believe in. Per-Erik Muskos of Övertorneå, Sweden, has made a serious and formal proposal to officially list sex as an officially approved activity for civil servants during their lunch break. Cha-ching.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Muskos said that benefits could include improving employee morale. Good luck, Mr. Muskos, and please keep me abreast of the situation.